Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. This is a big day for the Paralus team, and this is the first step that Paralus team becoming a community. So, Paralus is now a CNCF Sandbox project, and now this is the first time, January of 2014, is the day where we are hosting our first live call so everybody can attend, ask question live, how you can contribute to this project, and what's the moving forward roadmap look like for this open source CNCF Sandbox project. So let me introduce my guest and my team member, Atul Maharaj. How are you, Atul? And share first a quick intro of yours.
Hey Sam, hi everyone. Good evening, good morning from wherever you're joining in. I'm Atul and I'm part of the Paralus team. And fortunate to have been part of this right from the beginning to the end and eagerly looking forward to this first community call of 2023.
Thanks, Atul, for the quick intro. And let me add Nirav to the party as well. Vinu, how are you? And let's first a quick intro of you to our audience.
Hey, Saim, thanks for adding me. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. This is Venu Prasad, VP Engineering, Graphic Systems. I'm also part of the Paralus team from the very beginning. Really excited to join this first call. Wonderful to have me. Thanks, Saim. Over to you.
Yes, thank you for the quick intro once again, Vinu. And let's add Nirav. Nirav, thank you very much. And let's start a quick intro of Nirav.
Hello, everybody. So this is Nirav Parekh. I'm essentially working as a software engineer with Cloud, and I had this glad opportunity to begin Paralus or get started with Paralus, and I'm really looking forward to see where it goes. So yeah, cheers, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I think it's a big day for all of us here at the Paralus team. And now the first step of bringing more people into this open source CNCF Sandbox project. So, Atul, can you please shed the light of how this project eventually started, what the need of this project, what problem it tried to solve, and end up landing into the CNCF Sandbox project?
Sure, Sam. I think I'm quite privileged to be talking about this because I do have Nirav and Venu here as well, and we all are the people who have seen the project from the first line of code to getting inducted into the CNCF landscape. So I think this journey started sometime last year, if I can say around 2021 end last quarter is when we actually started the development work. And I think the bigger agenda over here was that securing your Kubernetes cluster. I think that is one thing which is at the core of Paralus, and quite a few would agree that there are a lot of tools available that are there to manage access to Kubernetes. But then the problem arises, especially when you talk about scaling them, or when you have a lot of clusters that you have to manage using those tools. So the default options that you get with Kubernetes, things like probably a namespace or things like RBAC, or even the DIY solutions. You can definitely mix and match some tools and create your own solution. Now these are not quite feasible and scalable for enterprise grade solutions, and that's where what happened is Rafael, the team behind Paralus, they came up with a zero trust access service as part of their enterprise offering. And that actually formed the basis of Paralus. That is when we decided that okay, this is something that would benefit a lot of people, who want to use it for their projects or even at the enterprise level. And that's when we decided to branch it out and have an open source project. So, like I said, 2021 is when the team started working on the project. The engineering team getting involved, the product team, all the team coming in sync and started working on it. And it was in June 2022 when the project was finally open sourced and made available to the entire community. And I think since then, what has happened is one of the good things that happened that we had a handful of early adopters who adopted Paralus to start with. and they constantly came back with a lot of feedback, some little issues here and there, and we as a team got a chance to regroup, brainstorm, and work on those issues and resolve them at the earliest. So that is something that has been happening since June 28th. And one of the major milestones that we all collectively had in mind was contributing back to the community, making Paralus a part of the CNCF landscape. So I think we collectively strived and worked towards making that happen. And in fact, as I'm speaking right now, we are in the last stages. I mean, there are just a couple of things that we are doing to complete the entire donation process of Paralus to the CNCF Sandbox landscape. So quickly, a couple of reasons why we feel that Paralus coming in the CNCF landscape was important. I think one of the major reasons here is that obviously the access to the community. We feel that we do get a lot of people who can use it. Moreover, we will get an input from a lot of other people. So we get a validation of where the project is going, what the features are, how what is required. So we take the help of the community in terms of deciding the path, as well as taking inputs on building it as well. And lastly, obviously, when any project becomes a part of the CNCF landscape, there's also an added credibility, and as they say, with power comes responsibility. So I think the moment Paralus has been inducted into CNCF, I think it's a huge responsibility on our shoulders, as well as the entire community, to ensure that this project goes well and becomes a project which is something that is adopted by the enterprises as well. And to speak from my point of view, I think the journey has been really amazing. I think in the entire one and a half year that I've seen Paralus grow, and especially being a first-hand part of the entire CNCF onboarding, that has been just learning from my side. So yeah, that's a quick about Paralus, how it started and where we are.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll also share the link on the meeting notes here, so you can grab the link. And if you are joining us or watching us, you can add your link into this Medium doc and place your name in there, so we can let know. So you are the part of the first community call. So this is how the things have started, and we're really, really proud, because one of the challenges we see in the open source model is that there is a securing access to the remote Kubernetes cluster is not an easy job, and it's required a full hands-on and a very technical experience and technical knowledge to understand how you can give access to the Kubernetes to your developers and operation or DevOps team. So you end up polluting not the cluster resources and not giving the resources other than they actually need. So I think this is how the project eventually started, and it's a free open source project from the Rafe team. And they see a need in the enterprises that they require us to have a secure access to Kubernetes cluster. So a part of their main goal is to give back to the community a tool that can be work in a different scenarios to achieve the same result. So right now we have actually in the if you go back in this URL, you can see the Paralus listing in the CNCF Sandbox project. We have a Paralus Slack channel dedicated for the questioning answering session. If you have trouble running the cluster locally or in the cloud, you can ping us all the time. We help you get started. And this is a Twitter handle where we share every update related to the Paralus, every tweet, what the blog we have written, what the docs improvement, how the GitHub repository is actually gaining momentum. So all news will be shared here. This is the first community call as of 2014, 24, January 2013. And moving forward, we're looking for your feedback. Like, we have moved this community call to the bi-weekly or weekly basis? And this is the meeting location. We can go to the Zoom or go to the StreamYard link as well. So the main maintainer is today with me, Atul, Vinu, and I've just joined, I think, 5 months ago for this team, and really proud of working with what they are actually doing. So apart from the other internal things, we have been a sandbox project. Also, the last KubeCon, we have participated in the virtually and tell people around what we have, what the Paralus is, and how what it has to offer for the community. So this is the first KubeCon NA where Paralus being a peer virtual officer. So we're looking forward to the KubeCon EU that's coming in Amsterdam, and you will see the good agenda for some of the talks we are giving there. Another, we have a cloud native security talk for one of our product manager in our team, and he has a talk on how you can secure access to Kubernetes infrastructure. So it give a talk. I think it's a great learning resource for anyone who want to be get involved. So also there's a new conference is coming up, the KCD Pakistan, where there's a lot of Paralus talk will be held, and you will see the agenda will be pop up on this YouTube channel, on this community.cncf.io channel for it as well. For the upcoming events, we need a place where we can talk about where we can talk about what Paralus is heading up to and how it can integrate with the ecosystem, in the moving forward as well. So there are some KubeCon preparation is also on the our horizon, and also I'm really looking forward to your feedback if people are watching us on the YouTube, where you think we can go forward and do other, where we can participate in future for the upcoming Paralus event as well. So there is so much in the plan as of today. So we will see Paralus will be in the participating in multi conferences this area in this year, and we hope we can have wonderful talks. We have some end user stories, and we have some adoption stories, how Paralus people are using in their workload as well. So now you're thinking about what Paralus is, how I can install in my local Kubernetes cluster. So Vinu will shed some light on where actually how you can run Paralus locally, and what are the prerequisite steps needed to install Paralus in your local Kubernetes cluster. So Venu, over to you. Can you give my audience or community members some insights on this? Venu, you are muted.
You're on mute.
Oh,
Venu, I
sorry.
think you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought it was muted by Saim, so I was waiting for him to unmute. Anyway, cool. Thanks, Saim. By the way, thanks a lot for the introduction. Great one by Atul and Saim for taking us through the whole journey, both of you. Basically, when we really want to run Paralus on a local system, we really made it in such a way that all the end users need is a very minimal number of resource. All you need is a simple Kubernetes cluster running, either a Minikube or kind cluster, anything that you would like to do. Here, let me see. We have one small demo that was done, and let me just run through that video. Essentially, what we have today locally is a Minikube Kubernetes cluster, and all you need to do is get a Bootstrap YAML, which is available on paralus.io, and apply the Bootstrap. Once that is done, as you can see, there are a couple of components that is going to get installed on the local Kubernetes cluster, the main one being the Paralus system. Once the Paralus system is up and running, let's take a look at all the pods that are running. And essentially that pretty much it. We should be able to see a Paralus system installed and up and running on the local Minikube. So once the system is installed, and what we are going to do, we are going to import an existing cluster. Let's see, Paralus is an access control system. It's the controller which is running on your local laptop. And now we have a cluster as well that also got imported. Once the cluster is imported and it starts showing as healthy, let's see. Okay. Adding multiple users onto Paralus. Essentially, you have a cluster which is installed. However, you would like to give access to some of the users who really looking forward to access the Kubernetes cluster, right? So adding a user is as straightforward as just adding a local user. There are multiple ways actually you can let user access Paralus. Or rather end user access the Paralus. You also support single sign-on, SSO. SSO can be done either using any of the SSO providers like Google, the GitLabs, any standard SSO providers. So creating or connecting to an SSO is also pretty simple. Pick your best SSO that you like. Come here, and here we are going to select what exactly we need. When you create a SSO cluster, you actually want to ask what the IDP you want to be sending you. Enter the standard details that you would want, kind of what is the IDP type, and also what exactly we are expecting, that when the claim that is received by Paralus, what are the things we expect, right? Username, group name. Also, you will have to go back to the GitLab and configure the callback URL, which is Paralus. That's pretty much it. As you can see, setting up an IDP, single sign-on, single sign-on way of authenticating into Paralus is also pretty straightforward. You go to Paralus and select, okay, I would like to do single sign-on, and click on the link that is provided. Go to your GitLab, you get authenticated over GitLab, and you come back to Paralus. As you can see, this is a brand new user who just got added. Administrator has not really provided an access. Essentially, you don't have anything to do with using this user. This is how the fine-grained controls are going to come in. You see, this is the local user which got created when the Paralus got installed. And if you go to the IDP, you see that just now Atul has logged in, Sharma Rockstar gmail.com, who just got logged in, and now he doesn't have any access, right? So now you need to come and provide him the access. How do you provide the access? What kind of access that you would like to provide? You obviously don't want to give him the admin access. Rather, let's create a new group called new group, and then let's go ahead and add the members, and you're going to add obviously the new user, add it to the group. Once that guy is added, and essentially he's part of the group, him to access, right? It is just a user. Now we are going to assign him a default. I guess, where did we import the cluster? Probably you imported the cluster in the local project. Let's click on that. what kind of access that you would like to provide now? There are multiple access. Probably we would like to provide a read-only access. Right, and save. Once that is done, now new group, local project, he has got access and he's got a read-only access. So there are multiple ways that Paralus provides user to access the system. One of the easiest and simplest way is use the Paralus provided web UI, right? It is a kind of and you can essentially let user access only the cluster, nothing else, right? So as you can see, adding a fine-grained access to the cluster is as simple as a few clicks of a button. So that is the great value addition that Paralus would be providing. Not only having a fine-grained access, it also provides multiple ways user can access the cluster. One of them that we showed is web-based Kubectl, the zero trust Kubectl. And of course, there are other ways you can access the cluster. The second one being the CLI. It's called Paralus-Ctl. It is kind of synonymous to Kubectl. Similarly, we have Paralus-Ctl. If you really don't like browser-based access, you can always go back to the CLI access that is called pctl. If you want, you can also use the API to access the clusters. That's pretty much is the demo. Simon?
Thanks, Venu. Thanks for the wonderful walkthrough of the demo. So I think what the killer feature you see is if you if you have different team members that need to access the same cluster and you want to give them a fine gain control, like they can only see the cluster, but don't have to create a namespace or delete a namespace or add the cluster stuff in the cluster, so you can give them a fine grained control. I think one of the killer feature of the Paralus, and I think that's really every enterprise or every big company need right now, because they don't give everyone access to everything unless things are really, really difficult to talk about. So we see, if you go to our blogs, you can see all the different ways of creating the cluster locally. Here's the link for the parallels.io/blog. You can see you can run on the micro K8s, Minikube, and kind of different cluster. You can use it and let us know what your feedback as well. So next we talk about a few words about the digital marketplace on integration, what it is, how Parallels can be used on the cloud. So Atul, can you give us quick intro of what the marketplace integration look like as of today in the Parallels?
Hey, sure, Sam. So I think what you saw in the demo with which Venu showed was how to install Paralus on a local cluster and import a particular cluster into it. In terms of cloud integrations, we know that we want to ensure that Paralus is easily accessible and usable by the community. And we do understand that there are a lot of tools and platforms out there, and we want to ensure that Paralus is there everywhere. So we have taken steps to create documentation, create blog posts around how Paralus can be installed and used on various cloud platforms. So currently, if you go to the blog, we do have integrations for AWS, DigitalOcean, along with AKS, GK. So all of them we have it, and we are obviously improving that. What you're seeing now is, obviously the deployment on DigitalOcean, how Paralus works. Talking specifically about marketplace integration, we did release a one-click setup that is available on the DigitalOcean marketplace. So if any of you would want to try Paralus and want a really quick way to get started, I think all you have to do is just head to the DigitalOcean marketplace, search for Paralus, or under the security category, just find Paralus. You will log in with your account and you will see an install button, and that's it. You just hit it and the entire installation configuration is done. And whatever Venu showed in the demo earlier, you just follow those steps and you would be able to bring in clusters from other platforms, manage and unmanaged as well. So let's say you are having, so let's say you deployed Parallels on DigitalOcean. You can bring in clusters from GKE, you can bring in clusters from AWS, AKS, wherever they are. You can bring into Parallels and control access to them. So DigitalOcean Marketplace is where it is already available. At the time when I'm speaking right now, we are also working with the AWS team to get the marketplace integration there as well. And we do have a couple of them lined up. I would want to keep it as a surprise. So make sure to keep checking our Twitter handles as well as the blog post, as soon as we come up with more and more marketplace integrations and make your lives easier, to use Parallels.
Thanks, Atul, for the quick intro as well. Like I think you do see different marketplace integration is on the horizon for the Parallels, because every cloud provider, there is essentially a need, because one cluster can be accessed by 20 people, but these 20 people not have the same role. Rather, they have different role. Some are developers, some are DevOps, some are platform engineers, some are SREs. So they don't need to have access to everything, but they need to have access to things that only needed from them to make their job done. So actually, I think that's why the Parallels is landing into the marketplace as well. And we're really happy. So there are some demos definitely in you can see, like, is a killer feature is, once again, like if you give the access to the developer, he can only create a namespace, and let's say he was able to install the Argo CD on that namespace, you can do it. You can fine grain things on top of it as well. And if you combine this with the policy engine, the place is a wonderful place for you as well. So let's talk about what's next is coming up in this year for the Parallels. So Nirav, it's now your turn to help us understand the roadmap and the development roadmap for the Parallels.
Thank you, Sam, for giving me this opportunity. So let's go through the roadmap, and at the end of it, I'd like to share a couple of use cases that we as a team find very useful to begin with, and then we can talk more. So so installing Parallels is one of the easiest things. Okay, so it's as easy as run a command. It's just helm install, run that command, and probably go get a cup of coffee to yourself. And by the end of that time, you will have Parallels installed. There are a couple of steps after that. So there are dedicated blog posts for Kind, Minikube, and all the other various public clusters available, all the Kubernetes clusters available out there. So you can follow that and install. So let's talk about the roadmap. So currently, as Venu was talking about OIDC providers, right? How easy it is to kind of onboard or bring in a OIDC based SSO provider. And then start using that within your Parallels dashboard, right? So users with that OIDC provider will be able to easily log in and access your imported clusters. So next, what we're looking at is SAML support. So we want to support SAML-based authentication or authentication as well. So that is something in the works. After that, currently, if you look at Parallels a little closely, you'll be able to see that we do have restrictions until a namespace, right? So a user can be restricted to a particular namespace, probably just read what all is installed or what are the Kubernetes objects available in that namespace, and not do a lot more about it. But we are digging a little bit deeper now, and we want to provide, or we want to add the ability to provide resource specific access within the namespace as well. So that is something up in the roadmap. And there are a few other things we would like to add. System users, you saw two types of users, right? Local users and SSO users. We would like to add system users mainly to drive automation. So we've already gotten a few requests from a few of the community members out there that they want to use the API kind of to have things or quickly import, let's say, some 50 to 100 clusters that they have, and they would want to automate that. So we want to introduce system users for that particular reason and a lot more. The next up is we want Parallels not only for Kubernetes, but we want to expand this thought for various other components, right? Cloud components like be it virtual machines, be it servers, be it databases. We want it to be the centralized access solution, not only for Kubernetes. So that is a bigger picture. This is easily said than done. So that is going to be one of the major upgrades that we will be giving to Parallels probably in near future, or maybe looking forward to that. So currently, as you know, there are a few ways you can log in or use Parallels. We want to add MFAs, right? So that is also up in the works. One other minor feature that we planned when we released Parallels was if you currently want to use CLI, right? It is tightly bound with dashboard. So you need dashboard in order to download the CLI config and eventually use it. Okay, so that is one thing which we want to probably improve on and make CLI as a one-stop solution so that a user doesn't even have to use dashboard, right? He can easily install Parallels and start using with a few commands, start using all the start importing clusters, start bootstrapping clusters, and even start doing executing kubectl. Although kubectl execution is supported right now once you download the kubeconfig through kubectl in your CLI or in your terminal. But these are a few features that we want to, kind of add to the CLI components and make it much easier. So I'll not go through the complete list, but I would want to add one more. There was one request, right, from the community. So we got a request saying that, hey, I'm able to see audit logs, right? So Parallels does allow you to see who created which user, who imported which user, what all kubectl commands were executed on which cluster. A lot more fine-grained details we'll be able to see using Parallels. So that is also available as part of the feature. But the user wanted a little bit more. So he wanted to look at the container logs as well within Parallels, which currently we do not support. So there are a few features that has been coming in from the community, and we are happy to take it. There are issues created. And again, to you guys, if you feel that there are certain features which can be improved, there are certain features which you need for your requirement, feel free to raise a feature request, and we will definitely prioritize and add it to our roadmap. So that being said, I like to take a moment to talk about the use case that I was referring to, right? So we, right, within our team, we generally use, as Kubernetes developers, we use our own client clusters, Minikube and whatnot, right, in our local machines to kind of test out certain things. Now, whenever another coworker of yours starts running into certain issues, you probably have to get into a call and share screen and ask them to execute certain kubectl commands and figure things out. So after Parallels came into our lecture, we started working on this. We kind of used it as a interim place where we kind of import the other co-workers local cluster onto Parallels, which is probably running in a VM or somewhere, and then kind of start executing the kubectl commands on our own, which eventually gets executed in the other person's local machine. And it's easier for us to debug and kind of figure things out on our own. It improves async work culture, and it is a great way to start for at least developers, I would say. And it opens up to a lot more possibilities on how Parallels can be used. So I leave it up to that. And yes, back to you, Sai.
No, so I think I would just want to add
Yeah,
to
certainly.
the Neerav's use case. I think that has been a really helpful use case for all of us, while we are developing or working on Parallels. And, whenever I get an issue or anyone else in the team gets an issue, all I have to do is, we do have a central repo which is running Parallels. I just, import the cluster there, and I have someone to help me in the team. So I don't need to be in constant touch with them, or, they need not send me commands that execute this, execute that, and see what happens. But they can do it themselves from their own systems. So I think this is a really good use case, to talk about. Yeah, go ahead, Nirav. I think that's what I wanted to add.
Sure. No, I'm pretty much done. Just one important point I want to add. So whenever we talk about these use cases and all, right? So very important feature about Parallels is essentially when importing a cluster. Let's say I want to access a cluster that is present in some on-prem, right? If I want to execute commands sitting at my home, I probably need to open the networks, right? I need to open the networking port and then I need to enable access to that. That's how generally it is done. Now we are opening up or poking firewalls in the corporate, right? When we talk about it, so that is one of the key points that Parallels nicely comes into the picture, right? You need not open any new network or poke any new firewall holes, and it is essentially going to tunnel out a channel back to our Parallels core component, and thus the two-way communication is established and it keeps working. So all you need is your regular HTTP ports, which will be enabled in your corporate systems or servers, firewalls, essentially firewall systems. So that's another key point I wanted to just bring about. Yeah, that's about it, Sam. Back to you.
Thanks, Venu. Thanks, Miro, for
Hey,
the
Nirav, that's a great point. Hey, if I may, Nirav, I mean, that's great things that you said. Also, you may want to, can you share a few lines about the kind of visibility that Parallels is providing? It's a nightmare when especially when you have, if not hundreds or tens of clusters that you would like to provide access to your end users. And then with Parallels in between, what kind of visibility that provides? How fine-grained control you can add, and also beyond the fine-grained control. So what kind of audit logging that you may have? What kind of monitoring that you can do on the cluster?
Okay, sure, Venu, happy to take that. So there were a couple of points. Firstly, how do we access the fine-grained controls, right? So let's talk a little bit about the roles. So Parallels currently has some around 6-7 predefined roles, right? Which starts from an org admin. Essentially, as an org admin, you will be able to create users, you will be able to import clusters, you will be able to provide access to other users and whatnot, right? Then it goes on to having just read only, and it drills down to having, so Parallels is essentially project specific. Let's think about project as a group, right? So you create a project probably for your business unit. There are certain clusters which that business unit uses. You import them onto the project. So you want the set of developers and testers and a few other users just accessing that. So maybe give them a project admin or a project lead only permission, depending on what role they are playing in the team, and give them access to that particular project. So all the clusters that are imported within that project uh, will be able or will be visible to that team and only that project, right? So they cannot view some other business units imported clusters and kind of work on them. So this is one way to go. Business units, there can be QA stage, other types of projects that you create, which is depending on your corporate stuff, you can create that. Now, having said that, these predefined roles are good to begin with, but does not always satisfy all your needs. So Parallels does provide custom role creation as well. So all the details are present in the blog. We'll probably share it the later. You can just visit parallels.io. The blogs, you will be able to see the list of roles and the permissions. So custom roles is essentially you can find pick the permissions that are available in the system. Each permission has a particular description. Let's say user.read. Essentially, that permission will give a particular role a, the ability to kind of read attributes or information about a user, right? Maybe cluster.read will give the user permission to just read all the cluster attributes. So you can find pick these permissions, bundle up into a custom role, and start assigning those custom roles to users, right? So that way, it kind of improves on the possibility of what you want to what permission you want to give to a particular user. And yes, as of now, there are a limited number of permissions, but that again is the whole point, right? We want to improve on the permissions, we want to improve on that, and we want to kind of make this decentralized portion. So uh, yeah, that's point one. Point two, let's talk about the auditing, right? So I did mention briefly about auditing. So there are two major types of auditing, right? One is system level auditing. By that I mean, a user kind of creates another user, or probably creates a project, creates a cluster, or all the components that are present within the Parallels. Any action done on top of those components is being recorded, right? Which user, which component, what was the action performed. So that you will be able to see, right? That is one. The second one is purely Kubectl or Kubernetes based, right? So a user logged in who has access to the web kubectl or even kubeconfig for that matter has downloaded the kubeconfig and is running some commands or executing some commands against it. These commands will be captured, and you will be able to see which person executed which command against which cluster, right? And not only the commands, you will be able to see the corresponding API calls that are made to the Kubernetes API server as well. So these are the various auditing points currently available in Parallels. It is exhaustive enough to begin with, but there is a lot more that can be improved. So feel free to pitch in your ideas, and we're definitely happy to take it up. Yeah.
Yes, thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Neerav, for the detailed walkthrough on all these features as well. So I think there's a definitely the community sport where we shine in is like, let's say you create a custom role for your organization, or let's say your team, and you can make it available as a library for everyone to use it. So let's say you create a custom result that's defining, say, if somebody create a database and they need three roles like developer, operations, and sorry, let's say, and you make it available as a library in the community. Next part time somebody need that lawyer don't able to reinvent the wheel and use the same library. So I definitely want this some conversation move on these down the line as well. Plus there is a Argo CD, there is a Kyverno, there are some cross-plane tool. These tool actually combined with Parallels, they can do a heavy lifting what they already providing to the user as well. So what I would like to see is how the GitOps model is integrated with the Parallels, because the GitOps model actually sync resources from the GitHub repository into the Kubernetes cluster, and eventually they need some kind of access to deploy some stuff into the Kubernetes cluster. Might be end up plotting a cluster and end up accessing all the namespaces. So using the Parallels CLI or the Parallels model, they can restrict the pipeline to not the add resources into that pipeline as well. So there is definitely a tons of ways where Parallels can be a very, very vital role for the community moving forward as well. But today is the first community call. Might be when you see us again, there are some more news, some more integration point. But this is the why we make this call available, because we want your opinion, and your opinion is really matter to us a lot. So give us some quick summary. Here is a parallels.io website where you can see the GitHub repository link and the documentation blog. Everything is available for you. And if you like what we are talking about, then you please go to the github.com/parallels/parallels and hit us a star if you think this is a great project in moving forward as well. And we are currently close to 700, and hopefully by sometime we reach 1000K. But definitely there's a more and more community get involved, we see a great interaction. All the news will be shared here on the Parallels Twitter handle. And this is a talk given by the Mohan from our team on the cloud native security con. And has a other talk on the same topic with the Parallels on my YouTube channel called Cloud Native FM. And after a 15 minute, we will be combining cross-plane, Argo CD, Kyverno, and Parallels with the different vendors of the different open source project, and they can join in and to learn, discuss how these four open source project works together to require the need of the community. Parallels roadmap link Here is the digital ocean marketplace, and the big news. I think when we next time meet, there's a marketplace, EKS marketplace coming soon, and we're working on it, and hopefully you will like it. Blogs will be shared here. Document if you think anything can be improved, please ping us and eventually let us what are the things we can improve upon. And please join the Paralus Slack with the fun begun, where we share other opinions, we walk with other, like what you need in future as well. So thank you very much once again for all of community member who join us today from the Paralus. Hopefully when we next time meet, there is a more good agenda, more good topic related to the open source project. I really enjoyed the call, and let us know about your first interaction with us, and hopefully next time we'll see other involved as well. Thank you, Atul. Thank you, Nirav. Thank you, Vinu, for joining us on the call. Have a wonderful day, and have a stay healthy, stay safe. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.